Hey, it's Coach T. This is week 14 of my year-long C# devlog, which we started from the brass tacks in July. 14 weeks later, we're into object-oriented programming. We're having fun. We're using Unity to make some of what we're learning concrete. We're building vertical slice apps of applications. And unfortunately, we're also traveling cross-country. So that's why this video log is late. Typically, I upload on Saturdays. Today it's a Monday. It is what it is. But we left later than expected, and we got back later than expected, so I didn't really have as much time this weekend to work on C# as I wanted to. What I did get to do this week, though, were a couple of neat things. First, I've started to really work on using the strategy pattern when I'm building these vertical slice, practice applications. I'm still using like the school class to teacher to student to assessment structure, because there's a lot of different types of objects that can interact in there. And it's ultimately what I really want to build for my colleagues is an assessment system in order to track and compare and do some rudimentary data analysis with assessment types that are otherwise incompatible to comparing one another. So I worked on that. I worked on using the strategy pattern to use interfaces to compose the object classes that are there in the application. And I'm getting better at that. It was a little bit confusing when I first read through the O'Reilly design pattern chapter on the strategy pattern like 2 months ago, maybe. But going back through it this week with experience in interfaces, in more complicated objects, in composing return types, it started to make sense how I can implement this. So this coming week, I'm going to go back through the last thing that I built and see if I can work the strategy pattern in from the ground up. And that ties into the other thing that I was really working on this week is improving the modular design skills. I started the section in the player's handbook, which I'm not sure where it went, on generics. So generic types and generic methods. It's new to me still, but I've started to take notes. I've started to implement it. I had already been using generic lists. That's kind of the interesting thing is I had gotten pretty comfortable with using generic lists, but now the object itself is a generic type, which immediately allowed me to do some new things with the way that assessments get filtered based on user input in that vertical slice application. So that was neat. It's very rudimentary still. I don't have any user interface. It's totally a console app. I still haven't really decided on how I want to approach the UI. I don't know if I want to do WinForms, Windows Presentation Foundation, or if I want to invest the time in developing a web app. My concern there is my web development skills are rudimentary. They're rough at best. So this is this ongoing internal monologue or internal negotiation. How do we want to spend the little time that we do have every week? Do we want to just continue to march forward learning new concepts, or do we want to pause and, study a library, study a design model, something like that? So I don't have a good answer. I'm 14 weeks in though, so I'm not really rushing, but I'm pretty comfortable with the generics so far. I'm getting very comfortable with that strategy pattern. It wasn't a huge heavy programming week, but I was that's my cat. I was focused. And I work with Unity a little bit every day. I'm getting there. I can't show off what I'm working on because I'm using company assets for a project that I collaborate on, and that we're using some 3D models that we had, and I just don't want to show that off. But character can move, the character can shoot, the camera follows the character pretty smoothly, and we're just using gray boxing to do the basic environment stuff. Really, I'm just trying to learn how that engine works at kind of a basic level, just to have some fun with coding. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to keep this one very short, kind of like my week, very short, going into a long, very dreary, cruddy weekend, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'll be back next Saturday, hopefully with some new stuff. So